Welcome everyone. This is Nichelle Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichelle Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. So thank you so much for joining me today as I am starting to focus on Atlantis. It's been actually 2 or 3 years since I had introduced this new production underneath the MOLIAE overall umbrella there, and I wanted to kind of get back to focusing on this storyline, my take of Atlantis. And when I did introduce it, it was right after that I had to focus on, at that time, still thinking that, spending time to create MOLIAE as a play to return back for the third time, but then COVID happened. So all that kind of changed, and it really had me to sit back and think, this really not what I wanted to do with MOLIAE of my book, which is to start at all this in my writing as an author. The book I titled it Mitsrayim, a Memoir of a Past Life in Ancient Egypt. That I made it to a theatrical production, Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt. And I did the first theatrical part of that was a play that one of my advisors at the time that I was giving me good advice told me to go ahead and do that. But when I wrote the book, it was always, when I saw the images and I wrote it for my soul, I remember saying to myself, this is like a movie, And anyhow, I focused on that after I wrote out Atlantis. And then the next year, of course, with COVID and all that, fast forward to now, I'm saying, but I'm coming back on my 5th season of podcasting. I need to kind of go back and release some other series of that. Eventually, this would be a paid membership access. If you've been listening to any of my previous podcasts, that's when I was on Spreaker with this particular podcast show here. And if you wanted to get the full clip, you would sign up or to be a part of that particular platform to get access to that. I did remove that account for now. I just couldn't manage that and everything else. I might have something either back on that platform or just creating something here on Podbean where for a premium membership you will be able to get the full short story and other goodies attached to that when you become a paid member supporting of this podcast. But nonetheless, I wanted to return back to Atlantis. And I really have some good vibes about it of how I'm going to expand this production. And hopefully you are in tune to that and like these stories that I'm bringing forth. So before I get all into that, as we start part 5, and when you come about in my podcast show, when I title it episodes, pretty much it's MOLIAE. MOLIAE is about ancient Egypt. It's from my book. That's my heart, where I'm still back, on it to turn it into a full feature. It has never been a full feature production, MOLIAE. And Atlantis is a part of that creativity umbrella of releasing a new type of storyline, my take of Atlantis, from the tales that we have read from storybooks and what have you. This is my take on it. And it's basically regarding leadership. And so we'll go more into that later. If you haven't got the chance to listen to my rollout of premiere, please check that out. It was in 2019, I believe, Atlantis, 2018 or 2019, in February, the month of February. And I released 4 parts. So definitely go back and listen to that. You really like it, comment, show that you like it. Give me a heart or what have you on that check mark, and definitely share it with someone else. And I definitely break it down before I start the short story. I definitely give you some background information on it and put all the pieces together. I'm going to do that a little bit today because it is me returning back to my season, and so I'm just going to kind of touch on that and give you a heads up. But definitely I highly recommend to take the time and listen to those 4 parts and then come back and listen to this one after you listen to it today. So at any rate, let's go over a couple of things before I get started. So this particular podcast, again, is from my book when I wrote that over 20 years ago. So again, it's titled Mitsrayim, a Memoir of a Past Life in Ancient Egypt. You can get that at Amazon. If you already purchased my book, I humbly ask you to leave a review. Hopefully it's 5 stars or a high star and a positive comment. If you don't really like and you can't connect to it, don't be mean or whatever. Just walk away. It's okay, right? Looking for positive energy. So at any rate, from there, I'm turning to a theatrical production, as I mentioned earlier. And here we are with Atlantis, that's expanding on that. Believe me, if you hold on and follow me into where we go for how long, all this is going to connect. Atlantis and Mitsrayim. Okay? But for right now, just to kind of touch on that, I have a website, MOLIAE.com. That's where you can get branded merchandise And I haven't, as of yet, sign up to the newsletter by going to MOLIAE.com, sign up to the newsletter, be a part of the fan club of the production, and soon, if not already, if I'm dropping this, don't be surprised you get advertisement that I'm releasing t-shirts of Atlantis. So go to MOLIAE.com, that's MOLIAE.com, and you'll see that in the description here. And you can find the merchandise, t-shirts and so forth. You also can find other merchandise, journals and so forth. So if you want to support the cause, support the mission, that one day soon I will turn my book finally into a full feature movie. You can do that by purchasing one of the items. You definitely see some discounts going on there. Check in the description here as well, and check that out. And I did mention the newsletter. Please sign up for that. You will see where you can just sign up and get an extra 10% on our merchandise. Definitely, if you want to be a guest speaker, maybe you in music, maybe you're a talent, an actor or what have you. Maybe you a gaffer. You just want to talk about entertainment business and your experience and how you can motivate. All the things that I do, I try to motivate by giving. And I do have guest speakers come over. We'll talk about, their life, their experience. And of course, I will write them a scene, a particular episode of one of my short stories. This would be a perfect opportunity. So if you're interested, you go to MOLIAE.com and you can reach out to us by just the contact that you're interested in being a guest speaker. And that way you can not only promote your project, but you can educate or share your experience for those that are listening, that will love, that enjoy acting or enjoy being a part of the entertainment business. Maybe an assistant or what have you, production assistant, or maybe any other type of position producing film, and want to talk about it and share their experience. So with that done and said, let's move on to the other thing, which will be the website. So I have done episodes before, did a feature film. If you want to know all about my theatrical work as a director, based on the writing of my script that I wrote, because I'm an author by heart, a writer, you can go to realhouse.org/prestige, and that will list all the things that I have done, waiting for the moment that I can direct on set my book that I wrote, that I wrote. It was a time that I was like, I don't think I can do this. No one's going to take it seriously. No one's going to believe me. And I fought through all that fear. And I got up. I want to put an age on it, but I got up, and that time it wasn't no iPads you can use. It was like, those old computers or a typewriter, and I did it. I wrote that manuscript on a typewriter. And when I got up to page 50, and I'm sharing this is live, like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do it. I was so terrified, I just couldn't do it. And then something in me just said, and I listened to my ancestors, and they said, yes, you can. They said in a different phrase. I'll share that later. And I got up and I did it. And I made sure after work, I came home and I did what I need to do, and I set time away, and I just wrote it nonstop. And that's a journey. And it's a part of me. It's part of my being. And hopefully you'll get that from me when you're listening to me, that you come humbly, not negatively, trying to take anything. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. And I'm sharing this with you. And that experience has always kept me strong. Even when I first arrived in Atlanta and I went through some awful people. And I talk about people like that in my other podcast, Surviving Your Journey Toward Success. Please subscribe to that podcast here on Podbean. And that experience of pushing through and pushing back fear led me to where I'm at today, and led me to stand back up when a lot of people that I came across that was already in the business, and they thought they this and that because they've been in all these productions, and who am I coming from corporate America thinking da-da-da. But it doesn't matter where you're from. The truth is, if the talent is there, and the humbleness is there, that God has blessed an individual, that's their purpose. When we arrive here as babies to grow, we don't really understand or know our purpose. And the experience that we might be doing in another industry, what have you, is just the experience. But you use that for what you're meant to be. And I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be a writer, an author, to motivate for the next generation, and a healing effect. So I had every right to be there. and I was on time. And so when I was attacked, I'm going to use that word. It might be a strong word, but that's exactly what it was. I remember when it was a moment that I wasn't going to finish the manuscript. I didn't know what was motivating me to do it. I didn't understand the visions that I saw. And I remember my ancestors. I can hear them, and they just spoke to me. And I chose to get up. Even though I didn't understand it, that's what you call faith. And I will never forget the exhilarating feeling when I remember I pressed that first letter on that typewriter to continue to write beyond page 50. That's powerful. So you take that in your own life when someone tell you can't do that. You don't have the experience. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and you're just coming from another, industry and having never done this before. Who do you think you are? Basically what they're saying, where they don't know life. And they're not in alignment with God. And then that's strong. That's a strong statement. And I did not plan to say this. So that means that somebody needs to hear this. And I am fine with it. You know why? Because I've been through a lot. And I know when God moved people, sometimes the background, I don't know how they able to put this together. But for some reason, they got the tools and they got the mindset, and it just moved with them. We can't get caught up too much of where the person came from. We just know at this moment of time, they're the right person at the right moment, and they're getting it done. And they ain't never seen nothing like it before. And that's what we have to do, we motivate people. So I had to go through a lot of naysayers when I got to Atlanta. And I just kept pushing through because this is my dream. It's my manuscript. It's my story. Mitsrayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt, aka a theatrical production. Moments of love in ancient Egypt. Fast forward, now I'm creating Atlantis. And I'm proud of that. And if you want to be a part of this journey, I don't know how it's going to end. Like I said, I'm still waiting for it to be a feature film. And I'm going to do it my way. And with the power of God, He should make it so. In the meantime, I'm doing my podcast show. And I'm enjoying the experience. And this podcast show definitely focuses on relationships and the choices that we make, the alliances that we do. And Atlantis is a part of that. So let me get into that as well. But before I do right quick, do follow the podcast on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest. You can go to MOLIAE.com. You can scroll down and you should be able to see our social media. All right. So without further ado, let's get into this. Let me catch you up with Atlantis. So it's basically a royal family. And we have Akobi. He's basically the ruler of leadership that I often say, basically a king ruler. And my take on Atlantis, we have the center of like the capital. That's where Akobi is. That's where he ruled. He has 3 children. The oldest one is Matum. Now in part 4, the last part of my series of Atlantis, Matum was mysteriously vanished. Okay. Now the other 2 children that Akobi has is 2 twins, and we call it Arente and Maketo. It's a female and a male. They're twins, and it was born during the second equinox that I mentioned. And basically, there was a symbol, a sign that they believed that God of universal powers to be is trying to bring in balance. Before they was born, there was a galactical type realignment of the planets, and it caused a lot of chaos, rulers fighting on one another, so forth. And they was assigned, the twins, to be what we basically would say today, future ambassadors. They also have unique powers that they are slowly learning that they can do based on the land of the location of Atlantis. Okay, so we're going to get into that, and we're going to start off from where in part 4 As we fast forward from part 1 to 2, 3, and 4, Arente and Makato is about age 19, and they would be ruling. They had got the Communion of Leadership ceremony done to be joint rulers of the southern region of Atlantis. And then you have the north, and that's Matun. He's about 14 years older than them, and he's married, and he rules the northern region of Atlantis. So you have the north, and you have the south, and you have the center, right, where their father and their mother, live in the capital there. It's both land as well as water, of course, so it's like a big, big island. And the galactical part, near Atlantis, I do focus a lot on, we're getting more into astrology, or basically the constellations and other planets and so forth. So I really go all into it based on the history and the stories that I have read and what I'm feeling. This is my take of it. So with all of that, I do encourage you to go back to listen to my part 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we move forward to part 5. I'm going to do a part 6 and then a part 7. And then that pretty much is going to wrap up. I do a director clip notes on all of them soon. That'll probably be towards the end of my season or going into the summer. We'll go with that. But definitely this would be the 3 parts that I'm releasing with Atlantis. I will have, like I said, a premium type thing as well, so do look for that. Let's go ahead and get started and get into this podcast today. All right. Let's begin. For this week of my Season 5 podcast show, Nichelle Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond, for 2021 to 2022. For this week, part 5 of my series, Atlantis, entitled, There Are Always Those Refusing the Call of Truth. Opening scene. In the northern region of Atlantis, we see Arente and the generals of the land we call home to where our older brother Matun was last located before a mysterious sand dust mist approached their whereabouts, as told by nearby villages of towns of people of the island bay. Arente was in his military attire and retreated to the early dawn's awakening hours to the normal high-rise skill return as practiced with his older brother years before. That brought him peace and to reinforce his physical skills along with his twin sister. It provided a glow of powers as he moved his arms right to the left with the rod before him. Arente was up earlier on the land dunes with the other generals and soldiers searching for Matun, his older brother, but nothing came of it. By stepping away and focusing on his attuned skills made him feel somewhat calm. Arente felt his twin sister Makato ready for their connected telepathic in tune ability to start their practice of forte next. She was in the center of domain where their father ruled in Atlantis. Arente could hear the guards below, the second stone roll floor above, and below to the right side, as he was ready to start again searching for Matun. Arente raised his rod to level it above his shoulders, as he could feel and hear his twin sister Makato speak softly in his mind. "Are you ready, my brother?" "Arente?" she spoke. Arente nodded and then sent a similar telepathic rhythm message of assurance back to her. He replied in thought, "At always this moment of time, I am." Within unison, Arente, in the northern region of Atlantis, on the open stone brown amber deck, and at the center domain of the major capital of Atlantis, Makato. Even though distance apart, they was in tune to move and practice as what their brother taught them. In meditation and practice, they massively scaled the both rods they had before them, one to the other, washing up and washing down, to give a percent of command and calmness as the palm trees around Arente continued to brush back and forth. They both nodded and moved their hands in unison to a current vibration of thought and energy abode around them. Makato spoke softly while motioning the Nasib move that their older brother taught them well since they were children of 3 solid years straight on the white stone crescent platform. It does our emotions good to feel for what our brother Matum showed us, the way of mental peace. Arente managed a smile. Indeed, at this moment it does bring forth some peace. They both simultaneously spun around the rod around them and jumped over it as the last Brahmano technique came underneath to land in their hand, standing straight up. They mastered it once again. They both breathed in the fresh air around them to where they both stood, him still in the northern region of the rule of his brother, Matum, and Makato in the center domain of leadership of Atlantis, the capital. Right when they were both about to send each other a telepathic message, a guard entered to where Arente was at, that they were about to move out and ready for his entrance. Arente nodded and informed Makato he will tune in later. She complied and agreed, and their connection ceased. Makato continued to practice and think, as her father advisors and others of authority within the leadership and council was on the main level, 4 rooms down. She wanted to be present before them, but first wanted to continue to ease her mind as to worry of where their brother Matum was located. What happened? Why? And who? She knew soon she will have to deal with more of the uncertainty as she waited for her good friend, Okanos, the perfect, what we call now in the present day, Dolphins, return back of his inspection of what she feel could give those answers. Before she could turn around, she felt to speak. Back to her brother, she felt something. "What is that you feel, Arente?" He spoke in a haste and disturbance as Mephisto. He is the main general of their father Kobe, of the rulership of the domain of Atlantis. The Mephisto and the others stood nearby now near a ridge, which seemed calm of the sand around them further. Suddenly, Arente and Makato spoke telepathically at once. "You felt that too?" Makato yelled in an audible way. "Get low. It is coming fast." Then herds of camels. Then Arente responded that all could hear. "I can stop it." The other around General Mephisto looked and didn't see anything, asking Arente to explain. But then in a moment less, they saw a sand dust heading their way, and they started to get on their camel to go out to the opposite way. But Arente stood still and held up his hand to create an energetic wall to prevent it. At the same time, Makato could feel and see her brother Arente holding back the sand dune dust of fury. She spoke telepathically. "It is of the same that our brother saw. I feel it so." And engulfed him and the others. "It is the same. That sun dust there. It will not stop until it does the same to you and the others." General Mephisto yelled for Arente to let go of it and follow them, that the strength of the sand dune dust is too large, and another wave they will see. Arente said he is speaking with Makato, that they will get help to where we are. I can hold them off, he said. But Makato instantly thought, let's try this, she spoke. Let us both focus to send it to the far left of you. All. Arente nodded, and with both his hands and Makato put such force forward as she stood at the same plateau in the center domain of Atlantis, a throw far away from her father and for her brother Arente. She could feel that she was standing near Arente in the northern region of Atlantis, and felt that swirl of wind. They both moved their hands from the left to the right, as knowing which one was going to do what at the right moment. Then that sand dust dune to the left current went up through the far mountains. General Mofeso and the others was astonished and amazement, as well as all the others, and the village that saw afar. Arento grabbed some of the sand dune dust mist and put it in his pouch he had on his side garment, and then he got on his camel. He spoke to the generals. Now, we shall leave, but we got some of it that knows where my older brother was taken. With my sister's help, as you can see and saw, we sent that sand dust back to which it came. Let's move out. General Mufasa and the other in amazement gladly followed Arente into the horizon of the Atlantis motion, where Matun was known to be before the sand dune dust occurred. Meanwhile, at the capital of Atlantis, we see the galactical advisors and council members advisors of Atlantis surrounding the judgment table of decisions of many, talking to King Akobe and the whereabouts of Matun, his oldest son, and those that could shed some light or somewhere responsible. It is Matun's wife, named Teko, that is present, walking in with several of her guards from the palace of the northern region, under now the rule of Arente, and the advisors, now delegated to Matun's first right advisor, Narun. There was back and forth for who should be the ruler while Matun is still missing, when one of their galactical advisors accuses Teko of wrongdoing and responsible in some way for the disappearance. There was a loud uproar of everyone in determination of the allocation of such a statement. When Teko spoke of those that have already demonstrated mistrust, have spent or sent spies above and below the waters of Nulu. That instantly gave Makato a strong feeling that she knew of the secret mission instructed for her friend Purpose, friend called Kranos, investigated. Makato asked Chikoro, how did she know of such a thing before the question was answered? Makato sensed strongly that her dear friend, water friend, needed help. So Makato abruptly left to run to the deck to where she often meets up with him. Through all the chatter, it was High Priest Beko and his Theo's assistants that followed Makato in a moment of support, and the palace guards. Makato made it to the edge bark walkway and put her hand in the water and pushed it forward. They created a water walk, a flush of water forward, and she pushed down her hand to merge with the current, and it flowed fast forward. Makato, with her hand in the water, telepathically ability and force instructed the waterway to go to the findings of the regions of Phakia, 22 degrees to the southern region of Atlantis. High Priest Beko and his Theo's assistants watched in amazement as they saw that water move with such force as Makato focused as she looked forward into the mist. Suddenly, Makato saw the image. Although High Priest Bako could not see, Makato could. Like her vision was attuned to Kranos. He was in trouble and trapped with some type of unknown wiring or something of that nature that it was struggling to release, but could not. She felt her brother tuning in, and Oreto asked telepathically, "What is this that I feel and see?" Makato sent a message back that Kranos is in trouble. Within moments, he held his fist tightly, and the fury of that water came and swashed Kranos from the left and to the right. So was Makato's hand that was still engulfed into the water from the edge of the backway. She too closed her hand into a fist and twisted it right to left. That in turn turned Kranos immediately out of what was entangled, and Makato gasped as she released her hand to know her friend was free. Within several moments, as they watched the waterway move from the right and to the left, they could see Kranos coming up. It was magnificent. He came up and they both touched each other's head. And Makato was able to hear the language that it showed of his gratitude of being rescued, but as well of what he discovered. Makato slowly stood up and nodded to her friend and turned to face the High Priest Makato and his royal thieves' assistants. In amazement, Makato spoke. "No one will rule my brother Matun's territory until we bring him back home, and out of those that know more than they speak this day." Makato and his thieves replied, "Arse of Atum." End scene.